Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today's Friday and Call of Duty Modern Warfare just got a substantial content update and patch that balances out a lot of weapons. It really hasn't been that long since the game is launched and already we're seeing some decent content updates for the game. One of the new maps is called Shoot House, which focuses on close quarter, tight-knit combat. You can run around with SMGs and enjoy yourself. It's very fast paced, very chaotic. I think it's a decent addition to the standard rotation of Call of Duty maps. The other map added to the game is Farmland, which is a ground war map, which makes it the third ground war map, the large 64-player game mode with vehicles and billions of kill streaks going off left, right, and center. Now, if you've been enjoying ground war so far, you'll probably enjoy this map as well. I wouldn't call any of the ground war maps particularly strategic in terms of how they play out, and this one again kind of falls into a lot of chaotic gameplay. To call it a farm or a farmland also might be a little bit misleading, just because it is a huge farm. It feels more like a city of farmhouses, if that makes more sense, but it does have a big open area around the outskirts of the map, so if you want to do a little bit more sniping, or more realistically, if the vehicles want to do a bit more sniping, then they can sit far off on the outskirts and just waste away the enemy infantry towards the interior. It's really tricky crossing roads on this map. There's a lot of incentive to hide in a dark window of a farmhouse and just not move, and then the second you push out to try and crash that road, you're going to get downed by somebody, something, a kill streak, whatever it is. The building cover on this map spans a relatively long area, but it's also a very narrow area, so there's a lot of cross angles and it can get very, very dense, and that's kind of what leads to the difficulty of just moving around on this map in a more free manner, is that there could be 3, 4, or 5 guys watching an angle, and if they're not watching the angle, well, they could be at any second, right? Somebody could peek out of a window or around a corner and just drop you instantly with the incredibly fast TTK in this game. So it can be a bit challenging getting into this map, and once you start to figure it out a bit, you're probably going to slow your gameplay down quite a bit and figure out how to best camp a building, where to put your claymores, and how to get in and out of buildings as quickly as possible. There's a new playlist for Shoot House, which is Shoot House 24/7. It'll rotate through, I think, different modes on that map, so you can play it out to your heart's content. There's also a hardpoint playlist in rotation right now if you just want to focus on that game mode. And if you really want to play the new Farmland map on Ground War, it seems like it's queuing up quite a bit. I played it 3 games in a row, so you should be able to experience the new content pretty regularly. Now, along with the new maps and playlists, there's also been a whole bunch of fixes to the game. I'm not going to go through all of the performance and bug fixes. There's a decent list of them, and if you want to check out the patch notes for yourself, I'll leave a link in the video description. But there's a substantial amount of things, and if you've been suffering from something, there's a good chance that it has been addressed. There's been a lot of balance changes for the game, though, and this is a more important and interesting list, especially if you've really been getting into the COD meta. They've tweaked the riot shields a bit. They fixed an issue where throwing knives and thermite were not causing the shield to go on the player's back when thrown, which is clearly an abused mechanic, and hopefully that'll be over now. They also fixed an issue where explosive splash damage wasn't working consistently with the riot shield. Infinity Ward also promises to continue to tune the riot shield in future updates. Now, when it comes to Claymores, the bane of Call of Duty right now, they have nerfed Claymores, but they're still going to be in the game and they're still going to be effective. What have they done to them? Well, the main change is that they've made it so that they have a shorter trigger radius, so you can get closer to them before they detonate, and the width of the damage that they deal is shorter to sort of line up more with the trigger radius. Basically, they're just not going to do as much damage as further away, and they're not going to trigger further away. We'll have to test this out a bit more in game, but I have a feeling they're still going to be annoying, especially for the insanely fast-paced gameplay nature of Call of Duty. One of the other top points of feedback for this game has been around battle chatter, the amount of voiceovers you hear in-game just cluttering up your whole audio spectrum, making it difficult to hear enemies and just sort of, I don't know, focus on gameplay. They've now removed the ability for enemies to hear when they've been called out by the opposing team, so this is really good. They've also adjusted the enemy callouts so that they are never from your operator. Enemy callouts now use a more restricted cone at the hip and even more restricted cone in ADS when calculating whether or not to trigger. This should hopefully reduce the callouts overall, and it won't allow your enemy to know where you are if you make a callout based on them. They also say that they're going to continue to monitor and make additional tweaks to battle chatter in future updates. I played it a bit and it still does seem a bit overwhelming, especially in ground war. Weapon mounting. There's been a slight recoil increase when your weapon is mounted, so a little bit less laser beamy than before, but I'm sure it'll still be an effective tactic, especially for machine gun players. If you're running with the EOD perk, it'll now clamp the damage to a non-lethal amount, assuming that you at least have full health. Developers have continued to tweak the lighting in-game to try and help with player visibility, especially in dark areas. When it comes to footsteps, they've increased the occlusion percentage to filter footstep sounds behind geometry and adjusted the footstep volume at a distance. They have another large footstep change coming in the next update, which will make crouch and ADS movement significantly quieter. Stay tuned. The challenge, progression, and rank system has a bunch of bugs and tweaks and fixes for it, and they have a lot more planned for future updates. I'm not going to go through the list of those. There's a lot of little things there, but if you're interested in what's been changed, again, you can check out the patch list. The thing I want to get to and talk about are the weapon balances. What weapons got better, which weapons got worse? To probably nobody's surprise, the 725 shotgun got nerfed. They increased the spread to both ADS and hipfire, and they reduced the damage at range. And to anyone wondering, does this make the 725 like completely unfun to play? No, it's just a little bit less ridiculous compared to what it could do before. Time will tell if it's still overpowered or if it can still just one-shot people at crazy ranges. It's still effective, clearly, but just less so than before. The M4A1 assault rifle, my go-to weapon, has had its damage reduced at range and a small recoil increase. Also, assault rifles in general have increased hipfire spread to reduce their effectiveness up close and less damage at long range for full auto 5.56 rifles. Basically, they're trying to make the assault rifles fit more into an assault rifle category and give sniper rifles and SMGs more of a worthwhile place. SMGs got a buff. They've increased the movement speed, increased the ADS movement speed, and a small reduction in sprint out time. And the Uzi SMG got a damage buff at further ranges. The MG34 got an increase to its hipfire spread, damage reduced at range, and a small ADS slowdown. So a nerf to the MG34. The M91 LMG also got nerfed with an increase in hipfire spread and a small damage reduction. The PKM again got an increase in hipfire spread, medium damage range was reduced as well. Pistols got increased movement speed and reduced sprint out time, increased damage at range. So big buff for pistols all around. Also, crouch and prone are no longer going to adjust your recoil factors. They've also updated the rule set for the competitive Call of Duty modes, and there's a whole bunch of fixes surrounding the ground war game mode. The patch, however, has not addressed some of the other community concerns. Whether or not those will be addressed or if Call of Duty is taking a stance against them is not yet clear. One of those is skill-based matchmaking. Some people don't want it just because if you're playing at a really high skill level often and you want to kind of goof around and play with some other classes, it can be very difficult when you're up against a lot of people playing at an extremely high level. Trying to experiment or explore or just try out other things becomes unfun pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see if Call of Duty backs down on some of their skill-based matchmaking stuff. Also, a ranking ladder for a 2v2 gunfight would be a cool thing to add to the game. Again, these things were not yet addressed or talked about anyway, whether or not they're working on it for a future patch. Overall, this seems like a very good update for the game. Not only does it come with 2 new free maps to play, one of which is a pretty good standard map that can rotate through all the modes, but also it's addressing a lot of the core issues and the main issues that people have been talking about, and it doesn't seem to like completely nerf them into oblivion or go one way extremely hard. It just seems to be reducing in-game chatter, reducing the footsteps stuff, and working on weapon balance to try and make SMGs a bit more powerful, assault rifles a little bit less powerful, and working on some of the other nuanced mechanics in the game. It seems like a really good patch overall, and they also mentioned in the patch notes that they're committed to further tweaking specific areas that they know maybe still aren't quite right just yet. So this is a great first update for Call of Duty, and one that I think will make any fans of the game extremely happy. Let me know what you think of this latest update for the game. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.